My name is Leah Jones, and I'm a PhD candidate in sustainability at Arizona State University. Today, I will be presenting some of my research on the stakeholder collaboration within the Food, Energy, Water Nexus in Phoenix, Arizona. So, a brief overview of what I'm going to be talking about today. I'll start off with a background on the Food, Energy, Water Nexus and the case of Phoenix, Arizona. I'll then briefly discuss the methods that I'll be using in my research. Then I will present some of my results, focusing on the stakeholder perspectives, a social network analysis, and the beginnings of a case study. And then I will provide some concluding remarks. So to start off with the background, the Food, Energy, Water Nexus, or FEW Nexus, refers to the interactions, trade-offs, and relationships between the three resources and their related governance sectors. For example, energy is needed to pump groundwater on farms for food crops. Thus, threats to energy security can lead to decreased food security. This integrated approach offers opportunities for increased resource security and decreased unintended consequences as a systems approach is taken. Because of the interdisciplinarity of these three resources, it is argued that governance decisions between food, energy, and water should be taken together to improve the decision-making process. Food, Energy, and Water Nexus governance, then, argues for communication and collaboration among multi-level stakeholders across sectoral boundaries. Despite the known benefits of integrated Nexus governance, many decisions continue to be made separately from one another without considering other sectors. Understanding the structure of Nexus interactions and the governance actors that control those relationship trade-offs is key to moving beyond barriers to collaboration and engaging in integrated FEW Nexus governance in practice. In order to better understand Nexus governance and the role these actors play, I am focusing on a case study in Phoenix, Arizona. The Phoenix, Arizona metropolitan area has a population of about 4.8 million people and is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. Additionally, it is characterized by its semi-arid climate with an annual rainfall of less than 9 inches or 23 centimeters. Therefore, in order to augment the water supply from the city comes from 4 main sources: local surface water, imported surface water from the Colorado River, groundwater, and reclaimed water. The water demand is mostly municipal, with some agricultural and industrial demand. Beyond the dry climate and growing population, a key water challenge in the Phoenix area stems from a multi-decadal megadrought. This is a drought that has persisted for over 2 decades and has led to further stress on the water system, thus creating a need for creative technological and governance approaches to management. Additionally, there are strong interlinkages between food, energy, and water resources. Agriculture is important to the history and culture of Arizona, even within the urban Phoenix metro area. Energy is used to pump surface water from the Colorado River, moving it 3,036 miles over nearly 3,000 feet in elevation change to deliver water to central and southern Arizona via the Central Arizona Project Canal, which is the single largest user of energy in the state. Water is also used to cool the Palo Verde nuclear power plant, which is the largest nuclear plant in the U.S. These interactions, coupled with the unique characteristics of the case, highlights just some of the characteristics of Phoenix that make it a unique and interesting place to study FEW Nexus governance. So my methods. First, I want to present you guys with my research objective, which is to understand the structure of collaboration between FEW Nexus stakeholders to understand the barriers to FEW Nexus governance. So in the results that I'm going to be presenting today, the main research questions that I'm seeking to answer are: what are the main interactions between Nexus sectors, and who are the main stakeholders involved in decision making? What is the structure of FEW Nexus collaboration? And what are the barriers to collaboration? And why do those barriers exist? So to answer these research questions, I conducted focus groups and interviews with participants from food, energy, and water organizations to understand the stakeholder perspectives of Nexus interactions and Nexus actors. Then, we employed social network analysis to understand the level of collaboration between these actors. Social network analysis is an approach to stakeholder analysis that seeks to identify relevant stakeholders within the system of interest and analyze how those actors are related to one another. And finally, I conducted a qualitative case study to understand the barriers to increased collaboration and qualify those interactions that were noted through the social network analysis. So here are some of my results that I will be presenting today. So in the interviews and focus groups with stakeholders, we found through our engagement that water energy interactions were identified the most, while energy and food interactions were identified the least. And this matrix on the slide just provides some of the interactions that were noted most by the stakeholders we engaged with. Additionally, stakeholders identified many external drivers that put additional stress on the Nexus system and are very important for them in the process of decision making between food, energy, and water resources. And these stressors include things like economics, water shortages, technology, and climate change. Additionally, through these stakeholder engagements, we asked stakeholders and participants to name the stakeholders who are most central to the decision-making process within the Phoenix metro area. Through this engagement, the Arizona Department of Water Resources, the Salt River Project, which is a water and energy utility in the Phoenix metro area, and the Central Arizona Project, the organization that controls the system of canals that delivers water to central and southern Arizona from the Colorado River, were identified most often. Stakeholders describe them as having the greatest power and influence over decision making. On the flip side, environmental NGOs such as Audubon Society and the Nature Conservancy and Sierra Club, as well as Native American tribes, were qualitatively described as being stakeholders who are more likely to be left out of the decision-making process, though they were mentioned a fairly good amount in naming different stakeholders. We then used this perception of the stakeholders in the Phoenix area to conduct a social network analysis on secondary data of the actors within the Phoenix area. So we began with the actors that were identified from our first engagement, and then used meeting minutes, joint legislation, collaborative research projects, and other forms of written secondary data to identify how stakeholders collaborate with one another. We then snowballed that, and for each new organization we identified, we looked for new pieces of secondary data that would connect them to other organizations as well. We then constructed a network map of those actors and in total identified 93 stakeholders within the network. The results of our network structure reveal a centralized core of mostly water actors, which are noted here in blue, with a periphery that have some agriculture actors as well as our energy actors, which are noted in yellow and red respectively. Additionally, there is strong collaboration within the water sector and between the water and food sectors. However, there is limited collaboration between food and energy sectors. This is similar to perspectives uncovered in our focus groups and interviews, where there was a strong understanding in the interactions between water and energy and between water and food, but not between energy and food. This indicates that there may be strong collaboration within the water sector and between the water sector and the food sector, which provides an opportunity for water actors to be a bridge between food and energy actors to create greater collaboration. However, there is limited collaboration within food and energy subgroups, thus it may be harder to promote collaboration across groups when collaboration within groups is limited. We then looked at the actors individually, and so we'll center in here to these more central actors, and measured node level measures for centrality based on degree centrality, the number of actors, which is the number of actors a specific node is connected to. The City of Phoenix and the Salt River Project were identified as the most central actors to the network. And this is important because these actors allowed us to identify who would be the best to engage in order to encourage bridging communication between other actors. And then our third piece of analysis that we conducted was a case study. We took those 93 actors and constructed a interest-influence diagram based on degree centrality to identify those who were most powerful and who had the greatest interest in the food, energy, water nexus in the Phoenix area, but also on the flip side to identify those who were being left out of the conversation. We then used stratified purposive sampling to conduct interviews and find a sample of document analysis, and attend public meetings for various organizations to understand how they collaborate with one another. So the purpose of this case study is really to understand the reasoning behind that network structure. What are the actual barriers to more integrated View Nexus governance? Why do those barriers exist? And how do stakeholders perceive that we can overcome those barriers? So the results of the beginning of this case study, revealed that water actors expressed strong desires to facilitate collaboration, while food and energy actors expressed sentiments of being misunderstood or left out of collaborative efforts, which you can see in some of the quotes here. This suggests that water actors, which may be considered the most influential in View Nexus analysis in cases of water stress, may intentionally include other water actors in collaborative decision making, but be unaware that food and energy actors are being left out. In what the barriers to collaboration are, decision makers identified mistrust, arrogance, self-interest, poor communication, and differences in values as key barriers to communication, which you can see as noted in these quotes. This may help to explain why certain actors are left out of the decision-making process for the management of integrated View Nexus resources. So in conclusion, stakeholders view water actors as more important to Nexus decision-making. These actors are key for engagement in creating change and encouraging collaboration. The current network structure indicates limited collaboration between Nexus sectors. However, by identifying and engaging key actors, particularly in the water sector, we can identify opportunities to overcome barriers to integrated decision-making. Barriers such as mistrust, limited communication, and pride hinder collaborative Nexus engagements. With an understanding of where these barriers exist, understanding what the barriers are, and understanding why they are in place, we can then provide next steps of how to promote Nexus governance and overcome these challenges. Understanding stakeholder perspectives, the locations of these barriers to collaboration within the network, and the characteristics of those barriers can allow us to engage with stakeholders to help them overcome and engage in View Nexus decision-making in practice to lead towards greater resource security. For future work, I will be synthesizing fully the Phoenix case study and finishing the analysis of that data collection to understand more about the why behind these barriers. I will then be conducting a similar parallel case study in Cape Town, South Africa, to compare this Phoenix case to the Cape Town case. And finally, I intend to create a sustainability indicator framework to evaluate the level of Nexus governance in the local View Nexus. So thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.